Good morning, philosophers. I am not getting feedback that the stream is live, so I'm just checking on that. All right, it looks like it is. Okay, let's begin. So, as end of the road as the last book sounded with the "Now the hour to part has come, I go to die, you go to live. Which of us goes to the better lot is known to no one except the God," in Apology. We have two more books until Socrates is actually murdered. I think they're short ones, though. But good. Short and good ones. Here we go. We're going to begin. Crito is the name of this book. Let's see. These are the editor's notes at the beginning. As the beginning of the Phaedo relates, Phaedo is the next book after Crito, Socrates did not die until a month after his trial, which followed by a day the sailing of the Athenian state galley on an annual religious mission to the island of Delos. No executions were permitted during its absence. Crito comes to tell Socrates of its anticipated arrival later that day and to make one last effort to persuade him to allow his friends to save him by bribing his jailers and bundling him off somewhere beyond the reach of Athenian law. Crito indicates that most people expect his friends to do this, unless, dishonorably, they value their money more than their friend. Socrates, however, refuses. Even if people do expect it, to do that would be grossly unjust. Both Crito's arguments in favor of his plan and Socrates in rejecting it are rather jumbled. As perhaps befits the pressure and excitement of the moment, Crito cites the damage to his and Socrates' and others' friends' reputations and delicately minimizes any financial loss he might suffer, in case Socrates might be unwilling to accept any great sacrifice from a friend. Socrates witheringly dismisses the first consideration and ignores the second. But Crito also claims that it would actually be unjust of Socrates to stay, that would allow his enemies to triumph over him and his friends, including his young sons, whom he will abandon by going docilely to his death. A person ought not to take lying down an attack on the things he holds most dear, including philosophy itself and the philosophical life to which he and presumably his friends are devoted. Here we hear strains of the time-honored Greek idea that justice is helping one's friends and harming one's enemies, cited by Polemarchus in Republic I. But Crito does not propose harming their enemies, only preventing them from having their way. As to his children, Socrates responds that they will be as well or better cared for after his death than if he resisted it and went into exile. But, ironically, considering his own subsequent arguments for accepting his death, he seems not to hear the larger claim of injustice that Crito lodges. Crito's jumbled presentation of his case facilitates this. Unmoved by the claims of justice grounded in his private relationships to friends and family, Socrates appeals to the standards of civic justice embedded in his relations as a citizen to the Athenian people and to the Athenian system of law. He claims that a citizen is necessarily, given the benefits he has enjoyed under the laws of the city, their slave, justly required to do whatever they ask, and more forbidden to attack them than to violate his own parents. That would be retaliation, rendering a wrong for the wrong received in his unjust condemnation, and retaliation is never just. But what if he chose to depart not in an unjust spirit of retaliation, but only in order to evade the ill consequences of the unjust condemnation for himself and his friends and family? As if recognizing that loophole, Socrates also develops a celebrated early version of the social contract, a contract between the laws or the city and each citizen, not among the citizens themselves, with the argument that now, after he is condemned by an Athenian court and has exhausted all legal appeals, he must, in justice to his implicit promise, abide by the law's final judgment and accept his death sentence. It is clear where Socrates stands. He is committed as a public figure known for pleading the preeminent value of the civic virtues, to honoring them in his personal life and death, But the dialogue itself, through Crito's ignored appeal to justice in the private sphere, invites the reader to reflect on a wider range of issues about justice than Socrates himself addresses. Did justice really require that Socrates stay to accept his death? I mean, the philosophy professors that teach this stuff would call somebody a fugitive that tried to escape unjust incarceration. Anyway. Let's begin. Socrates, why have you come so early, Crito? Or is it not still early? So this is Socrates in prison right now, being visited by Crito. Why have you come so early, Crito? Or is it not still early? It certainly is. How early? Early dawn. Socrates, I'm surprised that the warder was willing to listen to you. He is quite friendly to me by now, Socrates. I have been here often, and I have given him something. Have you just come, or have you been here for some time? A fair time. Then why did you not wake me right away, but sit there in silence? By Zeus, no, Socrates, I would not myself want to be in distress and awake so long. I have been surprised to see you so peacefully asleep. It was on purpose that I did not wake you, so that you should spend your time most agreeably. Often in the past throughout my life I have considered the way you live happily, and especially so now that you bear your present misfortune so easily and lightly. Socrates, it would not be fitting at my age to resent the fact that I must die now. Other men of your age are caught in such misfortunes, but their age does not prevent them resenting their fate. That is so. Why have you come so early? Crito, I bring bad news, Socrates, not for you, apparently, but for me and all your friends the news is bad and hard to bear. Indeed, I would count it among the hardest. Socrates, what is it? Or has the ship arrived from Delos, at the arrival of which I must die? Crito, it has not arrived yet, but it will, I believe, arrive today, according to a message some men brought from Sunium, where they left it. This makes it obvious that it will come today and that your life must end tomorrow. May it be for the best, says Socrates. If it so please the gods, so be it. However, I do not think it will arrive today. What indication have you of this? I will tell you, I must die the day after the ship arrives. That is what those in authority say. Socrates, then I do not think it will arrive on this coming day, but on the next. I take to witness of this a dream I had a little earlier during this night. It looks as if it was the right time for you not to wake me. Crito, what was your dream? I thought that a beautiful and comely woman dressed in white approached me. She called me and said, Socrates, may you arrive at fertile Pythia on the third day. Crito, a strange dream, Socrates. Socrates, but it seems clear enough to me, Crito. Crito, too clear it seems, my dear Socrates, but listen to me even now and be saved. If you die, it will not be a single misfortune for me. Not only will I be deprived of a friend, the like of whom I shall never find again, but many people who do not know you or me very well will think that I could have saved you if I were willing to spend money, but that I did not care to do so. Surely there can be no worse reputation than to be thought to value money more highly than one's friends, for the majority will not believe that you yourself were not willing to leave prison while we were eager for you to do so. Socrates, my good Crito, why should we care so much for what the majority think? The most reasonable people, to whom one should pay more attention, will believe that things were done as they were done. Crito, you see, Socrates, that one must pay attention to the opinion of the majority. Your present situation makes clear that the majority can inflict not the least, but pretty well the greatest evils if one is slandered among them. That's the truth. Socrates, would that the majority could inflict the greatest evils, for they would then be capable of the greatest good, and that would be fine. But now they cannot do either. They cannot make a man either wise or foolish, but they inflict things haphazardly. Crito, that may be so, but tell me this, Socrates. Are you anticipating that I and your other friends would have trouble with the informers if you escape from here, as having stolen you away, and that we should be compelled to lose all our property or pay heavy fines and suffer other punishment besides? If you have any such fear, forget it. We would be justified in running this risk to save you, and worse if necessary. Do follow my advice, and do not act differently. Socrates, I do have these things in mind, Crito, and also many others. Crito, have no such fear. It is not much money that some people require to save you and get you out of here. Further, do you not see that those informers are cheap and that not much money would be needed to deal with them? My money is available and is, I think, sufficient. If, because of your affection for me, you feel you should not spend any of mine, there are those strangers here ready to spend money. It's like a GoFundMe, dude. Come on. One of them, Simmias, the Theban, has brought enough for this very purpose. Cebes, too, and a good many others. Cebes, I have no idea. Cebes. Pronounce that. Cebes, too, and a good many others. So as I say, do not let this fear make you hesitate to save yourself, nor let what you said in court trouble you, that you would not know what to do with yourself if you left Athens. For you would be welcomed in many places to which you might go. If you want to go to Thessaly, I have friends there who will greatly appreciate you and keep you safe, so that no one in Thessaly will harm you. Besides, Socrates, I do not think that what you are doing is just, to give up your life when you can save it, and to hasten your fate as your enemies would hasten it, and indeed have hastened it in their wish to destroy you. Moreover, I think you are betraying your sons by going away and leaving them, when you could bring them up and educate them. You thus show no concern for what their fate may be. They will probably have the usual fate of orphans. Either one should not have children, or one should share with them to the end the toil of upbringing and education. You seem to me to choose the easiest path, whereas one should choose the path a good and courageous man would choose, particularly when one claims throughout one's life to care for virtue. Woo! Pulling the kid card. I feel ashamed on your behalf, and on behalf of us, your friends, lest all that has happened to you be thought due to cowardice on our part. The fact that your trial came to court when it need not have done so, the handling of the trial itself, and now this absurd ending which will be thought to have got beyond our control through some cowardice and unmanliness on our part, since we did not save you, or you save yourself when it was possible and could be done if we had been of the slightest use. Consider, Socrates, whether this is not only evil, but shameful, both for you and for us. Take counsel with yourself, or rather the time for counsel is past and the decision should have been taken, and there is no further opportunity, for this whole business must be ended tonight. If we delay now, then it will no longer be possible. It will be too late. Let me persuade you on every count, Socrates, and do not act otherwise. Socrates, my dear Crito, your eagerness is worth much if it should have some right aim. If not, then the greater your keenness, the more difficult it is to deal with. We must therefore examine whether we should act in this way or not. And not only now, but at all times, I am the kind of man who listens to nothing within me but the argument that on reflection seems best to me. I cannot, now that this fate has come upon me, discard the arguments I used. They seem to me much the same. I value and respect the same principles as before, and if we have no better arguments to bring up at this moment, be sure that I shall not agree with you, not even if the power of the majority were to frighten us with more bogies, as if we were children, with threats of incarceration and execution and confiscation of property. How should we examine this matter most reasonably? Would it be by taking up your first argument about the opinions of men, whether it is sound in every case that one should pay attention to some opinions but not to others? Or was that well spoken before the necessity to die came upon me, but now it is clear that this was said in vain for the sake of argument, that it was in truth play and nonsense? I am eager to examine together with you, Crito, whether this argument will appear in any way different to me in my present circumstances, or whether it remains the same, whether we are to abandon it or believe it. It was said on every occasion by those who thought they were speaking sensibly, as I have just now been speaking, that one should greatly value some people's opinions but not others. Does that seem to you a sound statement? You, as far as a human being can tell, are exempt from the likelihood of dying tomorrow, so the present misfortune is not likely to lead you astray. Consider then, do you not think it a sound statement that one must not value all the opinions of men, but some and not others, nor the opinions of all men, but those of some and not of others? What do you say? Is this not well said? Crito: It is. Socrates: One should value the good opinions and not the bad ones? Crito: Yes. The good opinions are those of wise men, the bad ones those of foolish men. Crito: Of course. Come then, what of statements such as this? Should a man professionally engaged in physical training pay attention to the praise and blame and opinion of any man, or to those of one man only, namely a doctor or trainer? Crito: To those of one only. Socrates: He should therefore fear the blame and welcome the praise of that one man and not those of the many. Crito: Obviously. He must then act and exercise, eat and drink in the way the one, the trainer and the one who knows, thinks right, and not all the others? Crito: That is so. Very well, and if he disobeys the one, disregards his opinion and his praises, while valuing those of the many who have no knowledge, will he not suffer harm? Crito: Of course. What is that harm? Where does it tend? And what part of the man who disobeys does it affect? Crito: Obviously the harm is to his body, which it ruins. Socrates: Well said. So with other matters, not to enumerate them all, and certainly with actions just and unjust, shameful and beautiful, good opinion of the many, and fear it, or that of the one, if there is one who has knowledge of these things, and before whom we feel fear and shame more than before all the others. If we do not follow his directions, we shall harm and corrupt that part of ourselves that is improved by just actions and destroyed by unjust actions. Or is there nothing in this? Crito: I think there certainly is, Socrates. All right, we're going to end it there today. This is the trial and death was the difficult read. This book is the frustrating read. He's such a staunch statist. He is so convinced that the most just, the most moral form of government is this democratic rule, based on the laws that the majority wills. He's so convinced by that he is happy to just move on to being murdered by them. I mean, we can admire the commitment to principle. I mean, that's definitely one of the lessons that we take from this. I love that. But the other lesson, maybe the more important, powerful one, is how important it is to have the correct principles. Because if we have the wrong principles and we're committed to them, then we can throw away great value and harm ourselves to the maximum. That's one of the reasons I'm paranoid all the time about the content I make on my channel when I talk about philosophy. I don't think most people know how much content I don't create because I'm not sure enough to talk about it. Because I'm always worried that people take what I say, don't think about it much, and then just start claiming that it's the truth. That scares the hell out of me. And then, I don't know, but I've had a lot of great counter feedback the last few days. I've had three people. I've had three people private message me separately and tell me, something that I had wrong. And, we talked about it, and I wasn't always wrong, but a couple of the times I was. And that is That is food for my soul. I love that when that happens. I really, really appreciate people being willing to take the time to contact me maturely, privately, or whatever, and calmly and rationally explain how and when I'm wrong on something. That is what I need to keep me from from being in an echo chamber. You know, like if I'd never get feedback, if I never get negative feedback, who knows? I could be saying complete nonsense. I could be legit, like, insane. I could be legit insane, and I would never know it. That's one of my demons that I'm constantly worried about. But getting the negative feedback really, really helps, and being wrong occasionally really helps. Because if nobody ever proves me wrong, the chances of me being wrong and just, I don't know, fooling people, even inadvertently, goes way up, right? So if I'm wrong occasionally, it means I'm within the realm of reason. I don't know. This is not a logical argument. I'm going to shut up now. Today is going to be a cool day. Actually, the next 2.5 days, 3 days are going to be cool. My daughter's Make-A-Wish is being granted, and we're going to be building a cool house for her in the backyard. But inevitably what happens, and so I'm going to help with the build, but I have this personality where I'm a terrible employee. I think about things too much. I tend to have what I consider to be a lot of ideas on how to do things. Oftentimes my ideas on how to do things I think are better or more efficient or less dangerous or whatever than what the boss tells me to do. I'm a terrible employee. That's why I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself best. But there are times in life where you need to work under someone else's direction, and the next 3 days are going to be those days. There are going to be people working, and it's going to be my job not to try and control and lead. It's going to be my job to follow orders to a certain extent, and take direction. I'm going to be asked to do things I don't necessarily agree with or think that are the best way to do them. But that's going to be fine. And I'm going to try and focus on enjoying this experience this is one of the balancing experiences to the insanity of having a sick kid, is that, you get a Make-A-Wish experience. And so I'm going to be focusing on the rarity of this experience that I get to have. And hell, not everybody gets to build houses in their backyard, a little mini house. It's going to be pretty cool. So I'm going to focus on that, and I'm going to enjoy the manual labor. I'm going to enjoy the sun and being outside, because as a nerd, I don't get a lot of that time. Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking about today. I want everybody out there to have I forgot. I wanted to mention, I don't have comments from you guys on the live stream up on the screen on purpose. This is supposed to be sort of me time, even though I talk to you a lot for some reason. So I'm not reading any live comments. I apologize for that if you're typing them. I don't see those on purpose. So all right, guys, have a great day.